Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a truly remarkable story from the Old Testament. One that often gets overlooked, but carries a powerful message about justice, courage, and challenging the status quo. We're talking about the 5 daughters of Zelophehad. Their names were Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah and Tirzah, and trust me, by the end of this, you won't forget them. So, let's set the scene. The Israelites have been wandering in the wilderness for 40 years, and they're finally on the brink of entering the Promised Land. It's an exciting, but also very structured time. Moses is leading the people, and God has given specific instructions on how the land will be divided among the 12 tribes of Israel. The rule was clear. Land was to be allocated to the families of each tribe, passed down through the male line. Each family's inheritance was tied to the name of a man. This was the system, the law, the way things were done. It was a patriarchal society, and the laws reflected that. Property, lineage, and identity were all traced through men. Now, enter the family of Zelophehad. Zelophehad was a man from the tribe of Manasseh. One of the sons of Joseph, he had passed away during the 40 years in the desert. The Bible makes a special point to clarify that he wasn't part of Korah's rebellion against Moses, a very serious transgression. He simply died of his own accord. The problem: Zelophehad had no sons. He only had 5 daughters. According to the existing law, this was a disaster for his family line, with no male heir. His family name would be erased from the records, and his family would receive no portion of the land they had journeyed so long to possess. Think about what that meant. No home, no security, no legacy. Their father's name would be forgotten as if he had never existed. For these 5 women, this wasn't just unfair, it was an existential threat to their family's identity and future. Now, in that culture, what would you expect 5 women to do? Probably accept their fate, right? Grieve their loss and try to survive by marrying into other families. That would have been the easy, expected path. But Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah were not your average women. They decided to do something incredibly bold, something that would have been almost unthinkable at the time. They didn't just whisper their complaints amongst themselves. They organized, stood together, and marched right up to the very center of power. Imagine the scene. They approached the entrance of the tabernacle, the holy tent of meeting, the place where God's presence dwelled. And there they stood before the most powerful men in the entire nation: Moses, the leader, Eleazar, the high priest, and all the tribal leaders and the entire assembly. This was the ancient equivalent of going before the Supreme Court, the President, and Congress all at once. The courage this must have taken is just astounding. And what did they say? They presented their case with incredible logic, respect, and passion. They started by honoring the system. They said, "Our father died in the wilderness." He was not among Korah's followers who banded together against the Lord. But he died for his own sin and left no sons. They made it clear their father wasn't a traitor. He was a regular Israelite who deserved his legacy. Then they got to the heart of the matter. They asked a simple, powerful question. Why should our father's name be taken away from his clan because he had no son? It's a brilliant question. It's not just about them getting property, it's about justice for their father. They weren't trying to tear down the whole system. They were pointing out a flaw, an injustice that the current law didn't account for. They concluded with a clear, reasonable request: give us property among our father's relatives. Think about the ripple effect of their bravery. They weren't just asking for land, they were challenging a legal and cultural framework that had been in place for generations. They were advocating for the idea that a person's worth and legacy shouldn't be erased simply because of their gender. Now, what's even more amazing is Moses' reaction. He didn't dismiss them. He didn't scold them for being audacious or stepping out of their place. The scripture says Moses brought their case before the Lord. He recognized the weight of their argument. He saw the potential injustice and knew he didn't have the answer. So he took it to the highest authority of all, God. And what did God say? This is the climax of the story. The Lord's response to Moses is game-changing. He says, "The daughters of Zelophehad are right." Let that sink in. God himself validated their claim. He declared that their argument was just. He didn't just agree with them. He affirmed their righteousness. And God didn't stop there. He established a new law based on their case. He told Moses, "You shall certainly give them a possession of an inheritance among their father's brothers, and turn the inheritance of their father over to them." And then he laid out a new statute for all of Israel. If a man dies and has no son, his inheritance should pass to his daughter. If he has no daughter, it goes to his brothers. If no brothers, to his father's brothers, and so on. Because of the courage of these 5 sisters, the entire law of inheritance in Israel was amended. They created a legal precedent that protected the rights and lineage of countless women and families who would come after them. Their names, Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah, were written into the law books and into history, not as footnotes, but as catalysts for change. But the story doesn't even end there. Fast forward a bit, near the end of the book of Numbers. The leaders of their father's clan, the family of Gilead, come to Moses with a new concern. They say, "Okay, it's great that the daughters get the land, but what happens when they get married? If they marry men from other tribes, their inherited land will then become part of that other tribe's territory. Our tribe of Manasseh will lose its allotted portion. This was a valid logistical problem. They weren't trying to take the land back from the women. They were trying to protect the integrity of the tribal allotments that God had commanded. Once again, Moses consults the Lord, and God provides another clarification. He says the daughters of Zelophehad can marry anyone they wish, but only within their own father's tribe. This way, their inheritance would stay within the tribe of Manasseh. This second part of the story is just as important. It shows that the daughters not only fought for their rights, but also honored their communal responsibilities. The Bible records that Mahlah, Tirzah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Noah did as the Lord commanded Moses. They married their cousins on their father's side, ensuring the land and their legacy remained within their tribe. They were not just rebels. They were wise and obedient members of their community who sought a solution that worked for everyone. Their story appears again in the book of Joshua when the land is actually being divided. When it came time to receive their portion, they confidently approached Joshua and reminded him of the command God had given through Moses, and they received their inheritance. They made sure the promise was kept. So, what can we take away from this incredible story today? First, the power of a just cause. These sisters saw an injustice and believed it could be corrected. They didn't resign themselves to fate. Second, the importance of courage. They faced down the most powerful men of their time, risking public shame and dismissal because they knew they were right. Third, the power of speaking up. Your voice matters. Sometimes the systems in place have blind spots, and it takes someone brave enough to point them out for change to happen. Their story is a timeless reminder that God is a God of justice. He hears the voices of those who are overlooked and marginalized. And it shows that you don't have to be a king, a prophet, or a warrior to make a monumental difference. You can be an ordinary person who, with courage and a righteous cause, can change the law of the land and shape the future for generations to come. The daughters of Zelophehad didn't just get a piece of land. They carved out a space for justice and equality that echoes to this very day. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. I find their story so inspiring, and I hope you did too. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next story. Let me know in the comments what you think about Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah and Tirzah. See you in the next one.